Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Welcome to the Healing Through Love podcast. I'm Sharlene Lynch, and together we're shining a light on hope, resilience, and transformation in the journey to end domestic violence. Each week we bring you inspiring interviews with changemakers, survivors, advocates, and experts who are making a difference in the lives of those affected by domestic and family violence. Whether you're on a healing journey yourself or supporting someone who is, this is a safe place for powerful stories, practical tools, and heartfelt inspirations. Let's heal through love together. I'm very excited to introduce to you today a fantastic guest, Leah Spasova. I've got to practice that. She is a psychologist. She is in sex and relationship expert and the founder of Life's Explicit. I need to know more about that. A groundbreaking censorship-free platform for sexual wellness. I need to know more. Through Life's Explicit, so that's the business name, she's companions exclusive sex-positive resources and education, helping break down taboos and provide a safe place for expert-led support. Leah's mission is to create accessible, stigma-free pathways to sexual and relationship well-being. Wow, okay, tell me more. How did you get here?
Okay, do you want an origin story or how we ended up with Life's Explicit being in existence?
Yeah, both. I want to know it all.
Okay. Long story short, in personal background, I was just lucky to have parents that believed in my education, and that included sex and relationship education. So as a child would ask things about, where do babies come from and how things happen, etc., I would ask those questions, and my dad would answer as a matter of fact. He would just answer as a stage appropriate kind of education. So if I was 5 and I asked where do babies come from, he would say something along the lines of like, well, again, that's in the 90s, like times have changed, but he would say something like, oh, well, when 2 people want a baby, the man would give a seed to the woman and they'll plant it in her belly. And then that's how the baby would grow, and then they have a baby. So he wouldn't go into explaining a penis and vagina and a uterus and like all of these things, because I was only like a child. So if my questions evolved, his answers would evolve with it. But further down the line, when I was a teenager, when I was 14, a non-government organization from my hometown came to school, and they held a talk about domestic abuse and violence and human trafficking. And I felt that for the first time in my schooling career, I actually learned something about real life. And I was curious to know more and delighted when they said, we have a youth club. So if you want to learn more about these things, you're welcome. It's free. We meet twice a week to learn about those things. And I even used to skip school to go to the club meetings because they were so helpful and useful in understanding the world and what was happening and how relationships work. They even took us to multi-day trainings across the country to talk about how power dynamics work, what's a toxic relationship, how to recognize abuse, how to have like safe phrases with family and friends if something went wrong and we wanted to give them a signal that we're in deep trouble and they need to react in a, give them a signal in a non-conspicuous way. So these kind of learnings from that very early age laid the foundation for me to want to be a psychologist and to work in the field helping people with those kind of challenges. And I went down the psychology and counseling route, worked in mental health, and I was in the UK, and I got disillusioned by the state of affairs in the health system, and ended up, after a lot of drama at my workplace, I ended up deciding that I need to start my private practice, because people were still calling me from like 10 plus years ago saying, "Hey, Leah, I've got this boyfriend, girlfriend, I have this sexual issue challenge." And I was like, "Oh God, like, okay, like tell me more. Let's figure this out." So that's how I ended up with my private practice, specializing in sex and relationships as a psychologist. And one of the things that I found was that running a business in that field is really difficult because we get censored, right? We like talking. I mean, in the USA right now, the word female is getting banned. The word trauma is getting banned. I don't know whether you knew about this, but the government has issued a massive list of words that are getting banned. And I'm like, how can you ban the word trauma or female? You know, like, or inequality. Wow. Um, but I learned that we are very much censored, and I ended up starting something I called the Sexpert Business Community. So it's a community for us sexperts to connect and support each other in the business realm of our work. And Life's Explicit was born because I saw a lot of professionals drop out of the field because they couldn't crack the business, because they hated the marketing, they hated the censorship, they just struggled. And Life's Explicit is looks like any other directory out there where you can find sex and relationship professionals specifically. So if you are struggling with self-esteem issues, or if you're kinky, or if you're struggling with health issues, etc., you can go and find a professional that specializes in that in relation to sex and relationships. Because I kept having inquiries from people saying, "Oh, can you help me with, let's say, gender issues?" And I'm like, "I'm not a gender expert. Like, I want to have a place where I refer those people to and they can find what they need." So that's how Life's Explicit was born. On one side, to support my community of fellow professionals, and on the other side, to help people find us, because people cannot even find us because of this censorship. This is the long story, as short as possible, as to how I arrived here, and also what's Life's Explicit and what's its aim.
I love it all. For me, business is like porn. I'm a business coach for 3 decades, and for me, it's just all layers of sexy. So I love it when you talk business. It's you're turning me on, babe. I love it. Okay, so look, what we know as a survivor myself, and also many of our community and our listeners are as well, is that this disconnect with our bodies, this disconnect with our ability to really accept pleasure in a different way, without the blame and the shame and everything that's come with it, the low frequency stuff, because of the history that we've come from, the background that we've come from. For us, it's a little bit, well, it's not just a little bit, it is a challenge. It's a block for us to move forward, to have healthy relationships. So, with our audience today, do you think that we could have a conversation about what are some things that our listeners could do to help them move forward? Or are you just suggesting that if they've got a challenge, they need to just go see a professional? It's not something that you can self-manage.
I would say it that way. You can definitely learn from books, from courses, from listening to podcasts, etc. The application is the devil. How do you apply it? Do you see your blind spots? Do you see what's actually holding you back, or you are just thinking you know? I had one client a few years back that just kept saying, "I don't know what I don't know, and that's why I need you." And that's the thing. Oftentimes we are too close to it, and we can't zoom out enough to see the whole picture and to see what we actually need. That doesn't mean that we can't provide tips and strategies and people cannot begin that journey. Sometimes you need to start on your own. You need to wander a little, get lost a little, get found a little before you're like, okay, I think I'm ready for that journey. So here's here's the thing. if you are going down that path of self-discovery with the podcast, with the books, with the courses online, and you hit a roadblock and you're like, I can't move past this, I'll say find help. That's the point where I'm like, don't waste your time anymore. Find help, because you don't know what you don't know.
So true. It's interesting the conversations that differ between men and women. And I'm married now only a couple of years, so we just celebrated our 2nd-year anniversary. And when we go at a dinner party, eventually the two groups separate. The women will sit in one area, we'll have a natter, and the boys usually sitting around, I don't know, in the man cave area with usually drinks in their hand. But when I walk between the two, I hear the conversations are very, very different. And these are from people who haven't come from an environment where, for the most part, that they are survivors of family and or domestic violence. But still the conversations are different. And what I notice is that the depth that women are happy to have conversations about the nitty-gritty of sex, and how boys just don't, men, because come on, I'm 58, they're not boys, they're men, how their conversation is so vastly different. And I don't know. Do you think that females have an added advantage because we're prepared to talk about things that would obviously be taboo for boys to talk about?
To a degree, because our whole existence is a taboo. And unless you start, it's true. Like, you look at women's history through time. Oh my God, we were always like second-class citizens. So if we're not prepared to go down the rabbit holes of challenging the taboo, challenging the status quo, fighting for what's rightfully ours as pleasure, as respect, as, just compassion even from the world, there's no way for us forward. We cannot give ourselves compassion unless we feel that we deserve it and we fight for it. Women have never had the upper hand in anything when it comes to power, except for when sex happens most of the time. But how it happens, what happens during sex, women have not had that much power over. And that's the path to discovery, that's the path to healing, to begin that self-ownership, to know that you are the person that owns you. That song pops into my mind, You Don't Know Me. and I'm like, yeah, women need to embrace and believe in their self ownership, in their sovereignty, before they can begin that journey of healing and self pleasure and pleasure with their partners. Because it is your responsibility. Your pleasure is your responsibility. Your responsibility is to find out what works with yourself, with your partner or partners, if you're polyamorous. And it's to communicate it and to make sure that they're listening, they are learning, and they're also interested. Gosh, if you're with someone who's not interested in your pleasure, run, run as fast as you can.
I love it. So at the base of all of this is communication. And so how can we, between the sexes, how can we, and even the same sex, how can we have better communication?
That involves shedding a lot of the shame and guilt and sense of sex is a taboo. Because for as long as you hold this as taboo, it holds power over you to be quiet and not make noise about it, not to communicate, etc. For me, the amount of times that people have told me, oh, you're lucky, all of your friends are sex positive and you can say whatever you want at any point. I'm like, I'm not lucky. I just speak about those things as a matter of fact. I don't treat them as taboo. I would speak to someone about sex on the queue in the bank. Like, if they ask me, what do you do? And I say, I'm a psychologist specializing in sex and relationship, and they ask me questions, I will respond. I'm not hiding. I'm not pretending. It's, again, going back to that, I own who I am. You cannot define me. And women have been defined by men for as long as, we know. That's going back to own yourself, and own what is important for you. And then when you start positively owning it, you'd shed the shame with much greater ease, and you just say what you want and how you want it and how often you want it. That's it.
So, in your opinion, in your learned opinion, is there a difference between love and sex?
Oh yeah. Wow. Huge. Huge. I can love you and still not want to have sex with you. And I may like despise you and want to have sex with you all night long. It's for some people it's connected, but if we look at it at the basics of it, if we boil it down to its basics, sex is a physical act. Yeah, we put a lot of emotion in it. And when we do put a lot of emotion in it, it's definitely different, right? It's the same as like your investment in making a meal. If you're not passionate about it, you're probably going to buy something from the shop that you can microwave and have in 2 minutes, right? But if you're passionate about cooking and the experience and eating a really good meal, you're going to put 2-3 hours into making that dish, whatever it is, right? So when it comes to sex and love, we need to understand that everybody has different concepts. For me, they're different things. They are very different things. And they're not necessarily connected. They can be. But that's again down to personal interpretation and personal preference as to how you prefer to express yourself intimately, romantically. There are people who are aromantic, there are people who are asexual, so that means they're not interested in people romantically, but might be sexually, or they're interested sexually or interested romantically, but not sexually. So the variety out there is as many people as there are on this planet, which counting is like 8 billion plus.
It's just about getting the right people together. I love it. Okay, so on a darker subject, the conversation about sex and power and how that relates to, the trade, both prostitution and also the human trafficking. So, how do we define the difference there?
The difference between
Power and sex.
okay, there is I love the topic of power. My favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes by Oscar Wilde is, everything is about sex except sex. Sex is about power. And the reality of it is that these two are very connected. And let's be honest, statistically honest, throughout time, mostly men have exploited mostly women and children for financial gain by selling their bodies. And when I was 14 in this non-governmental organization, we got told the following: human trafficking is the number one business in the world. It's better to own people and sell them than to buy drugs and resell them. Because you can sell an ounce of Coke or whatever once. That's it. The money's cha-ching, you've made it. But you can sell a woman or a child multiple times a day. And that's the scariest thing, that a lot of people don't recognize, that for someone to go into that trade, they're looking to make big money and they don't care for human life. And when I was 14, we got recommended to watch that movie called Human Trafficking. It's from, I think, 2006 or something. It's probably one of the hardest movies that I've had to watch, because it depicts different ways of how women and children get sold in, and men get sold into human trafficking. They get sold by their parents. They get sold by their supposed boyfriends. They get stolen from markets and sold into human trafficking. There are various ways in which people end up in human trafficking. But one of the most brutal for the trust in society is being sold by your parents or being sold by your partner. And when it comes to power and sex, these are absolutely interlinked. Women have a lot of power over men when it comes to sex that they don't realize. And men have a lot of power too that they don't realize. But once we begin to realize our power, we can use it for good or for evil, true evil. And that's how it is used in human trafficking, especially by people who are posing to be your partner, for instance.
It is a topic of conversation that needs to be had, and it's unfortunate that we live in a society where these things are happening, and yet it's challenging to talk about it because we are censored. So
We are.
it is a blessing to be able to have a podcast that we can have these conversations and talk about the things that really are happening so that we can pull back the covers and have the conversations that need to be had. If you're listening today and you are a survivor of family and or domestic violence, reach out to Healing Through Love. We hold pamper days, so think day spa on steroids, where we have professional therapists, beauticians come and pamper you for the day for free to help you see the value of you and what is possible for you. Now, these are held not just here locally in South Australia, but in every state in Australia and also globally. So if you're a practitioner and you've got a heart for change and you want to make a difference, reach out to Healing Through Love. We would love to work with you and have you at one of our next events and as a practitioner. This has been a fabulous conversation. I'm really enjoying it, Leah. I think there's more for us to talk about. So what I'd love to do is have you back as a guest later on down the track. So just as finishing today, please share with us your final words of wisdom to the audience that's listening.
I would definitely say if you're on a healing journey, find the right professional for yourself. Don't work with people if you're not clicking with people. There's plenty of professionals out there. And make sure that as you're going through that healing journey, you put yourself first, because if you don't, nobody else will. And again, if you are seeking for the right support, it may be at a different issue, may not be for domestic abuse, but it might be that you're kinky or whatever. Go on Life's Explicit and explore the resources and the professionals there, and just stay on the journey, keep growing. Like, life is amazing once you accept your power within and you heal so you can enjoy it.
Oh, I love it. It's been a beautiful conversation. It's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Leah.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.